Hello and welcome to our 5th day of beta testing video. The 5th day was focusing on the assassin class. That was quite the day. I'm quite known as somebody who does not play assassin. I recently, for the first time in 20 years, even dabbled in playing assassin during my Rags to Riches series, which was a lot of new information to take in. But it really helped me be a little bit more ready for this day of beta testing. And there were a lot of changes to Assassin. I think she was one of the more meaningfully changed classes overall from all the classes. So with that said, let's talk a little bit about the Assassin. Now, I woke up today and I got messages from 7 different people saying that a lot of the changes in the patch notes during the beta, there are patch notes that are changed live today. Another change went live. Which changed a few of the skills, which means some of our testing is going to be, I don't want to say invalid, it's going to be changed, like the results. And basically the way to approach these kind of changes is if you tested something in a certain state and you know that it was changed to the better or for worse, you can test it again. You can understand how much the effects actually, how much the changes actually affected what you tested, and it gives you some baseline to understand the changes from. So it's always good to test, even if something has changed. You're not losing information or anything, so nobody freak out. We're going to keep testing, and whatever is going to be meaningfully changed, I'm going to go over again, because we all want to be prepared for the next season. I think it's important for everyone, so everybody can be safe and sound. Everything is going to be fine. Now, the main changes for Assassin, I would say one of the main changes is definitely this new claw called Whispering Mirage. It gives up to 8 physical resistance, like Pierce. It lets you summon 1 additional Shadow Warrior. It was already changed to be 1 to 2 to Shadow. You can see that it was nerfed today, and it was also nerfed on its FCR, so it will have only 10 FCR, which is probably a good change. So it was already done with a few changes, but this Whispering Mirage enables this kind of new approach where you summon very strong Shadow Warriors and they cast along with you. Now, the changes will affect for sure some builds more than others, so we'll kind of go over these changes and how they affect stuff. Also, I was asked in a message, why do I run around in my videos? It's because, I don't know, it helps me concentrate, I guess. I don't really have a good reason for that. It's just something I do when I'm AFK. So anyway, we tested a bunch of builds. The builds we tested during the Assassin Day were as follows. We started by testing Fists of Fire. We went into testing Claws of Thunder afterwards. We tested Blades of Ice because this skill was buffed actually, even though it wasn't like used at all before. So Fists of Fire got buffed. Claws of Thunder didn't get changed, but we wanted to test it with the new claws with the Shadow Warrior changes. And we tested Blades of Ice. We also tested Phoenix with the new Shadow Warrior changes, just to see if it's also affected in a positive way. We tested Cobra. Again, all these martial arts builds, I wanted to test them with the new Shadow Warriors, see if them proccing the skills more often makes it more viable. We also tested just like Mind Blast, which is a skill I've never used before in my life, and I'm really sad no assassin ever told me about this build. It feels like there are 2 options. Either people are hiding this build from us or people are sleeping on this build, because this was the most fun probably assassin gameplay that I had so far. So I'm really sad nobody mentioned this skill to me. I'm going to go over this skill and how it functions. In addition, there were changes to traps. Traps now take less mana to cast, which is both good for assassin while leveling, because leveling with lightning traps is incredibly powerful, so now it's even better. And also early fire trappers now are more viable because you're going to run out of mana less, which is the main issue for the trappers, I feel like. So Wake of Fire buffed in terms of mapping, and lightning traps are buffed in terms of like especially LOD farming and like leveling. Lastly, there were nerfs to Blade Sentinel and buffs to Blade Fury. We tried to test Blade Fury, but the buffs weren't enough. But today they actually sent a new patch notes for Blade Fury, and it seems like it was buffed again by a lot compared to the first buff. So it could definitely be that once I retest Blade Fury, it's suddenly now an amazing skill and actually should be reviewed. But in this video specifically, I'm not going to go over it because at the time that I tested Blade Fury, it was absolutely useless. So with that said, let me pull the video. This was enough of an introduction for what we're doing today, and let's get started. So starting with Fists of Fire, we went through a few budget setups for the build, using things like Fire Lizards. You can use Bartux, and you can even use probably crafted claws with like plus to fire skills and Fire Pierce. Generally speaking, this was incredibly powerful, and you can see that we're summoning, here we're using Natalia's set. And Natalia's set lets you summon one more shadow, which is something people shouldn't forget now that shadows are incredibly powerful. They already nerfed Natalia's a little bit because it's such a great set, and they didn't nerf it enough for it to not be good, so don't worry about that at all. And yeah, you can see us mapping with quite like the ease. I'm not having any skillers on this setup. It's just Natalia's set, no charm inventory. So as you can see, very powerful budget approach to mapping. If you can secure yourself a Natalia set, you can start mapping with this Fists of Fire approach, which is pretty cool. You can actually map with a lot of stuff with Natalia's, but Fists of Fire was the one that I wanted to test since it was also buffed. And yeah, as you can see, we're clearing pretty fast. It took us a total of 7 minutes to clear on the budget setup with no charms. If you clear with full charm inventory and like actual GG setups, we tried to do the free Shadow Warriors setup with the 2 Whispering Mirages, and we managed to get a 4-minute clear on Assassin, which is pretty good. So you can definitely use this approach. Personally, I don't think it's the best approach. It is solid, but it's not the best. And you will see why I think that very soon. Because while there was an item that was technically nerfed, being Stalkers, people were saying it was nerfed because it doesn't give 2 to all assassin skills, it gives 4 to Shadow Disciplines now. It is still your main form of reducing the cooldown, or the only form of reducing the cooldown on your Dragon Flight, which is your main mobility option on these kind of martial arts builds. And I decided to, after testing 2 Whispering Mirages in tier 1s and tier 3s, I decided to test 2 Stalkers just because I figured that would be faster, because I just wanted to move from one pack to another. The skill does so much damage, I didn't really need another shadow or 2 shadows to help me do damage. And I ran like 5 maps at least on each setup at this point. Like I tested a little bit more after stream to see, but you can see how incredibly fast this is. So I'm running just Fists of Fire with 2 Stalkers for reduced cooldown. I tried running 1 Stalker and 1 Whispering Mirage. I tried running 2 Whispering Mirages. Generally, 2 Whispering Mirages averaged at around 5 to 5.5 minutes per tier 3 map, and around 4 minutes per tier 1 map. And for one of each, I managed to go sub 5 for tier 3 maps sometimes, like but it wasn't very consistent. So it was mostly around the 5-minute mark that we ended with 1 and 1, like 1 of each. So that was I guess very good. These are all insane stats, of course. Anything that does tier 3 maps in less than 6 minutes is incredibly powerful and should be like remembered. This is very much like a candidate for like a top tier mapper. But here you can see us using the 2 Stalkers, and it clears everything even faster. We actually clear the boss as well, like within like 2 seconds. So everything is incredibly strong with this. Personally, I think, like I was asked on the stream, and we were talking about nerfs and buffs. I think there are a few mappers that are stronger than this technically. So even if this is like a new thing, I don't think it should be nerfed. Like people can have fun with this. It looks like a really fun build to me. So I don't necessarily think it should be nerfed. It is very expensive to set up. It's not like an easy thing to just have. So it's not like people are just gonna do this out of nowhere. But this was my first attempt on this build. I've managed to make it even more consistent now that I gotten used to using Dragonflight, which is a skill obviously I'm not used to using since I don't play Assassin. But you can see I managed to clear a 4.5 minute like throne there, which is incredibly insane. It is one of my best clears of any map ever, and I really don't use this skill ever. This was like the first time I think I ran it in like a tier 3. So with that said, I think Fists of Fire is incredibly powerful right now. It is, in my opinion, the strongest assassin build currently before we're testing any additional changes during patch notes. So at the time of testing, this was, in my opinion, the strongest build. that I've tested is competing with the top builds, in my opinion, in the game in clearing maps, which are Poison Strike, Poison Nova. You have Frozen Orb, Corpse Explosion, the Fire Golems. I know I'm saying a lot of Necro builds, but Necro is really strong. Fire Druid is a top mapper as well. So again, like, it is competing with all these builds. I managed to clear a 3-minute tier 1 as well, which is also incredible time. It was like 3 minutes and 15 seconds. So again, this build is incredibly powerful. It's very, very, very fun. It is likely to be slightly nerfed. If it's not, I hope everybody has a lot of fun farming with it. It can be used as a budget approach, as we've shown. So it is viable on a budget. It's not very viable for leveling though, or doing Ubers on a budget. So we tested all these things, and these were the results. After that, I wanted to test Claws of Thunder. Claws of Thunder was sadly not keeping up in normal maps, so we had the idea of testing it in fortified maps, since we wanted to use the 2 Mirages, and there is the ability to do insane concentrated damage for lightning with the final proc that is just like the, you know, rain of lightnings. So we decided to try fortified maps and ran a couple of Ashens. I think we ran 4 Ashens on the stream total. I would test this more, but I feel like I had a good grasp on what it does. And at the end, we managed to do a sub 6-minute Ashen, which in my opinion should be good enough. Like, Ashen is a pretty big map. It's bigger than Throne. So being able to do sub 6-minute on Ashen, I think is a very good feat. You can see here, we're like at 3.5 minutes. And we tested back, we went into the map to see if we missed stuff. Generally, we missed like 1 pack, but overall, this was a very strong build in fortified maps. In non-fortified maps, the main issue is that you either lacked consistent damage, which is the main problem of lightning in general. So you either lacked consistent damage, or alternatively you lacked mobility, and that's why we decided to go with the fortified maps for Claws of Thunder. So with that said, if other people have better ideas on how to run Claws of Thunder, welcome to share. I think it's a very strong build, very capable build, but in this scenario I would think it would be second to Fist of Fire that we've seen. After that, we tested Blades of Ice, which was also buffed and also enjoys the new change to Shadow Warriors. We tested it with 1 Whispering Mirage and one Stalker's Call, because we wanted to lower the cooldown. It didn't do enough damage to do fortified maps, and as you can see in tier 1s, it's doing kind of okay damage with 2 of them. So that was the sweet spot I found for Blades of Ice. I will say that while this is a viable tier 1 farmer, it wasn't really struggling in tier 1s. Once we went up to tier 3s, and I tested it again in tier 2, once we went to tier 3s, it was a little bit of a struggle, which I'm pretty sure I saved a clip here of me doing a tier 3 with this. So in tier 1, it was pretty fast. We did like 4.5 to 5 minute tier 1 maps, which is fine. It will be cheaper to run than the other ones for sure. But in tier 3s, we ended up doing like a 9.5 minute Phlegathon, which again, with GG gear is not really where you want to be at. I get that like Cold has some issues on tier 3s. There's a lot of maps you don't really want to run. That are like the common maps that I at least like running, like Throne. I didn't want to test on Cows because Cows is more like it's an expensive map, and a lot of people either don't end up running it, or they don't run Cows as much, so it's less available. I don't really like testing on Cows because it feels like cheating a little bit. The cow testing, it's definitely a different map than what you normally go to. So I checked Phlegathon, and it wasn't the best results. That's kind of like the short end of it. It's not that it was bad. It was just an average build, I guess, for tier 3s, and a solid build for tier 1s. That was the general feel. It did not do very well in the budget, and I don't really recommend doing like leveling or early farming with it. After that, we tested Phoenix. I tested Phoenix in West March because it doesn't have like resistances. For people who are wondering why I didn't test it, it doesn't have resistances that are relevant, at least. And I tested it with the 3 Mirages to see how it kind of got affected by the changes. Overall, I didn't really love the Mirages using Phoenix Strike. It was like okay at some points, but it was too inconsistent, so I wasn't really a big fan. And I suggest, like, if you're running Phoenix, sticking to either Phoenix Shield and Stalkers, or dual Stalkers, things like that I think would do a little bit better. After that, we went into Mind Blast, and Mind Blast was the talk of the town during the day. People were really hyping up Mind Blast, saying it's one of the most busted mappers right now. So I was definitely interested, and you can see I'm setting up. This setup basically uses a nice set and just like cheap items. Charm inventory is basically like half of charm inventory, even like 1/3, and I'm just using it to have like a little bit of resistances. I think I have like 2 FHR Grand Charms there, so pretty much like a no inventory rare items type of situation. So a day 1 simulation for most people in terms of what you could have on day 1, and I invested all of what I had in like a nice set, because nice set gives you blink. Blink is a very useful for classes or for builds that want to have good positioning and movement, but need to use like their skills for resistances. So for example, here the assassin, like we are not going to use burst of speed, we're going to use fade for all of our resistances and the PDR, and we're going to use blink to move. As you can see, this is very effective. We're doing like Chaos Sanctuary. I hope I saved the entire clip of Chaos Sanctuary here. Could have maybe sped that up, but as you can see, we went in at like 26 and like 10 seconds, I think, on the timer. We're going in here, we're clearing with just a nice set, no other like benefits really. With just a nice set, we clear very effectively. So I don't know, again, why nobody talked to me about this build. I found a lot of fun playing it. I really enjoyed it. It does have something about it that I think should be nerfed or fixed, which is the line of sight issue, which I'll go into in a moment. But as you can see, the damage is great. It is really, really good. And the changes to the Shadow Warrior, casting like the skill more often, making it a lot more consistent in clearing packs. So a really great like early on farmer. Now, before you wonder, yes, I am at level 99, but I used like only, I think, 82 skill points or something like that. 81 or 82 skill points, which is kind of like simulating earlier than level 80. So this is like a very early approach to farming. I also kept like a lot of attribute points. You can see they're like not used, so it's all simulating like having like the same amount of skill points as that. I was using the Act Former because it gives you amp and it does boost your damage. That's what I generally recommend. The Act Former uses an Insight rune ward. The Insight rune ward gives you your mana, so it keeps your mana topped off. So overall, this is like the combination. If I was an assassin, there would be like now 2 options that I would look at in terms of leveling and early farming. One would be lightning traps, because they're incredibly powerful. Lightning traps for farming Arcane Sanctuary. It is incredibly good, and it was also buffed because you're gonna lose less mana using it now. So that's option number 1. And option number 2 would be running Chaos on Mind Blast. You can see that killing Diablo himself is a little bit slower. But you can have a lot more skill points at this point. Like you could use an amulet for +3 or something. I wasn't even doing that, so you can definitely do even more damage. But as you can see, 3-minute or sub-3 minute Chaos Sanctuary, that's incredibly powerful. Over here you can see us doing Ubers with the same setup, by the way. No increased like resistances or plus skills. The same stuff I just ran Chaos with. And as you can see, even though my Merc dies, you can kind of abuse line of sight with this skill. Like you see, I'm standing very far where Mephisto can't even touch me, behind the rock, things like that. And you can kind of like abuse this line of sight thing where you hit him. On Mephisto is less important because all the skeletons he produces will eventually kind of like mess up on you, and then you'll have to like disengage. But you can see here with Diablo, I'm simply standing behind the wall and hitting him from like one side to the other. The Pit Lords can like just be dealt with your Merc and Shadow Warrior, and if you need to reposition whenever he moves, you do it. But as you can see, again, standing behind the house and cheesing the fight. I really hope this gets patched. In my opinion, this is like, again, I'm not here to ruin anybody's fun. I just feel like this is a little bit cheesy and probably like should be out of the game. And it has nothing to do with how strong or weak Mind Blast is, just with how the mechanic should work, in my opinion, similar to how they changed Corpse Explosion and Desecrate for Necromancer. After that, we took the same budget setup for some mapping, and we managed to clear 6 to 7 minute maps with no skillers, with no torch, with just a nice set, basically. And again, I just want to give a shout out to nice set being one of the coolest underused sets in the game. The ability to get like oh, we actually do have a torch. I guess I did it after we farmed like a torch then. Okay, I must have misremembered the sequence of things, but yeah, maybe that's why I guess they're in this order. The smarter me who collected the clips yesterday was much smarter. Anyway, we managed to run 6 or 7 minute runs on sewers, which is very, very good for day one. No skillers with Mind Blast and full nice set. So very recommended early farmer, budget farmer, similar to how we ran Fists of Fire. Again, Fists of Fire used a Natalia set, so this uses the Nice set. And it gives you basically 3 avenues as an assassin to go into budget farming, which one will be Nice set, the other will be Natalia's, and the third will be dropping an Ohm Rune or getting an Ohm Rune and becoming a spin to win assassin. So 3 avenues of early budget farming, getting very effective. So that's I think really, really cool for the assassin class. So with that said, this is an example of us doing a more GG gear Mind Blast Assassin, using 2 Whispering Mirages, using Enigma, and using circlet, rare circlets and all that to just do as much damage as possible very, very fast. The way you play this build, it took me a few maps to get used to, is you have Enigma teleport, and you also have Dragonflight, like a point in Dragonflight. And the reason you want both of them is because you don't want your Enigma to be on cooldown and you wanting to teleport. So you're gonna have to alternate teleports. It takes like a little bit of getting used to, which is pretty cool. Honestly, again, I don't normally play Assassin, and I'm not even usually excited by Assassin at all. But I wish I knew about this build before, because this is a lot of fun to play. And for people who like very dynamic kind of gameplay that is like always teleporting, always casting, that is definitely something I recommend. And I know that usually I only keep it to 1 full map per class where I show like 1 very strong build, but I really do think that like there are 2 amazing builds in the season to try as Assassin, at least until patch notes change something, and they are Mind Blast and Fists of Fire. Both of them did amazingly well. You can see on this map, this is the best take we had on stream for Mind Blast Assassin in tier 3. So as you can see, it is very balls deep kind of gameplay. You really want to teleport in there. You don't like I don't know if hardcore players will be all in for how I'm playing, but we're here in softcore to have fun and kill stuff. It's all about speed and killing stuff and getting paid. Okay, so that's how I play. Generally speaking, the good thing about this build is that for your jewels sockets, you can put runes for resistances, or you can do life and mana after each kill. You're not using burst of speed because you're not walking, which means you have a lot of resistances and PDR from your fade. So again, a lot of quality of life in terms of getting to this point. I think it is a little cheaper to make even than Fists of Fire, because you don't need facets and things like that. So a lot of benefits to running Mind Blast over Fists of Fire. Of course, if you're farming early on, it is also better at budget farming and doing like chaos. So there is like a really smooth transition into this part of the game for assassins who want to go with Mind Blast. Generally speaking, again, despite of how strong I think the build is, I really like how it plays. Like, I think it's very fun, so I don't really want it to be nerfed. I also think there are better mappers, so again, until other mappers get nerfed, I don't think this should be nerfed, I guess. So I don't know, have fun with it while you can, I guess, is my recommendation for Mind Blast Assassin, unless it gets nerfed in the beta again. But yeah, you can see very dynamic gameplay. You want to be always teleporting. Use Dragonflight whenever you can, whenever it's off cooldown. This is something that the more that I played with the build, I got better at, kind of alternating the teleports and like timing my teleports to be able to kill everything. Like you want to be targeting things like behind you as well to make sure you're not having teleport with full stacks, like just like off cooldown. Because you always want it to be recharging when you can. Sometimes you'll teleport ahead of a pack that you haven't killed yet, and you'll just you'll kill them like from behind, right? You'll target them behind of you. You can see here that we're closing in on the map while I was doing my little yap fest, and we're in like 5 minutes clear for Throne. I haven't seen somebody do this at the times I managed to get for Fists of Fire. I try to play a little bit more after the stream with Whispering Mirage, with like double Whispering Mirage. I tried playing with like 1 less Whispering Mirage and run, sorry, this is already the next clip, and try 1 Stalker's Call instead of 2 Whispering Mirages, but it was even slower than 2 Whispering Mirages. So I would stick to 2 Whispering Mirages on this for now, unless some changes are made. Generally speaking, incredibly fun build. I really recommend people try it, at least in the beta, if you can allow yourself to try it in the beta. I think it's really fun in case it does get nerfed or nuked out of orbit and people don't get to see it. Because this was, in my opinion, one of the most fun builds I played in the beta, and also probably the most fun I've had on Assassin ever in 24 years or something. So I'm very happy with this build. I hope it doesn't get nerfed, but I do think the line of sight issues for early farming should be fixed, much like they were fixed for Necromancer. Okay, this is my unbiased take. Don't think I'm coming at your character. I really do think this is a cool build. After this, we tried Cobra Assassin. Now, Cobra wasn't specifically buffed in like a very meaningful way. It was changed in how the life leech work. I think it was made to make like some weapons leech more consistently, which is probably a good change. Generally speaking, it wasn't buffed or nerfed in terms of damage, but since you have a lot of points to spare in this build, I figured I'll try the Whispering Mirage and max like the Shadow Warriors to try this kind of like free Shadow Warriors approach with Cobra. And similar to Claws of Thunder, since you have a lot of concentrated damage, after a few maps I tried fortified maps, which definitely enhanced the experience for this. You don't have a lot of mobility, so having this double Mirage and running like a bunch of facets in them was definitely effective. We ended up doing 6 to 6.5 minute throne maps. That was the best times that we managed to get on this build, which is again is not like a GG tier breaking the game type of run, but it is very solid, slightly behind Claws of Thunder. So again, these Shadow Warrior changes are incredibly powerful. Whispering Mirage enabling like a new type of gameplay that is very, very strong, very effective. We'll see how they end up changing it, if they end up changing it after the beta ends. And if they don't, I mean, go ahead and have fun with it. So with that said, I just wanted to share, some people wanted to see some of the gear that I was testing for the Assassin. I'll show like the two sets of gears for the two builds I think are the most effective. One of them being Fist of Fire and the other being Mind Blast. So we have for Mind Blast 2 Whispering Mirages. I depleted them of their of what they had in the sockets, but basically we had life and mana after each kill, jewels inside them to just basically make sure you're always topped off on your life and mana. You can put resistance minus requirement jewels as well in them if you'd like. I don't think that's necessary because you're only really putting points into dexterity, since Enigma gives you all the strength that you want. With that said, we are using an Enigma for the teleport. We need it for mobility. We use Shadow Discipline skillers, an Amulet for FCR. You'll need some FCR somewhere. So Amulet for FCR and plus skills. The rings were constricting loops. In the actual game, like, you'll have other avenues of finding FCR. In the beta, this is just the restrictions that we're working with, so you have to take that into consideration. But these rings are amazing regardless, so they might get used even outside of the beta, since they give life after each kill, 20 FCR, so these are all great stats. 18 strength to get even better gear being worn. We were using Shadow Dancer as well. Shadow Dancers give you 2 to Shadow Disciplines, which is basically more damage, more skill points. So that is definitely great for us. So we used a rare circlet for the 20 FCR. Again, you can use like CBF ones. You can use mana and life after each kill. You can do a bunch of stuff with your circlets. But yeah, circlets, Shadow Dancers, Enigma, 2 Whispering Mirages, FCR. Gloves can be used, or using drainers for enemy physical resistance pierce. So a lot of different options for you as an assassin, but that was the general gear that we used. On our Merc, we used an Act 1 Vigor Merc. I use the Vigor Merc mostly so we can have movement speed for looting whenever we want to go around. I gave her a Raft Bow so she could amp for us. You can also use Act 4 Merc for the amp, that is also fine, or an Act 2 Innocence Ferocity Merc for more safety, and he can have an amp on his weapon. Of course, Marowak for CBF for that Merc, and Razor Tail for Pierce if you're running the Act 1 Merc is great. So that's the gear we used on our Mind Blast Assassin. For our Fists of Fire Assassin, we used an Arcanes with facets. Gives you FHR and gives you all skills, and gives you fire resistance, like it gives you sockets basically. I know some people like to use Ormus. Ormus is a little bit in my opinion, a little bit overrated for this. So 2 skills is great. That's what I ended up using. We used Akira's for the enemy fire resistance pierce with some facets as well. And for the res NCBF, a great helmet. I really recommend using it. We used Drax for life after each kill. In the actual beta, remember, there are no slams. I think you can get life after each kill from your slams on your rings and boots and your amulet, of course. Which is a blood crafted assassin skill amulet. So you can get like an amulet like this pretty easily. And instead of running Drax, you could probably run something like Hellmouth, which would give you more Fire Pierce. Alternatively, you can run Mage Fist for +1 skills or Frostburns for also Fire Pierce. I recommend the Hellmouth the most. I think it's only speculation, obviously just theory, but I think the extra procs for meteors and the fire pierce on it will be best for this, unless you need specific like life after each kill threshold. But we were very fine with whatever we had, which was a 16. We used 2 skill rings, which hopefully will be slammed with life after each kill. We used the silk weave for mana after each kill, which can be rare boots with a mana after each kill, or silk weave with life after each kill slam. So there's a lot of different options there. And we tried, of course, Whispering Mirages, and we tried Stalker's Call. Obviously we're using burst of speed, so you don't need like shales or something in your Stalker's Call. But if you are using Whispering Mirage and you don't have IAS on any of your other items, you will actually need a little bit of IAS in your Whispering Mirage, on one of them at least. So that is maybe something to consider. But during the actual live version, you will have Slam, so it will obviously all play out different. So that was the different gear. For the Merc, we used an Act 2 Infinity Merc, Defiance Infinity Merc with Innocence and Ferocity, again for safety and for that Conviction Aura. It worked amazingly. I really recommend it. For all the builds, I was using Arachnid's Mesh for the plus skills. You also use Arachnid's Mesh for the FCR on the Mind Blast build. So it's a great belt. For some people, they preferred safety belts like the Dungos or String of Ears. That's definitely fine to use. I just wanted the plus skills because it felt like the build was safe enough. And it gives us more damage, and I'll have more damage. For the skillers, we used martial arts. You want some of them having FHR because you don't have enough FHR to reach the breakpoint you want. You mostly get FHR from Arcanes and from Kira's, which is 60. So having 2 more FHR Grand Charms will definitely help you get that 88, I think 88, 86 breakpoint. That's the breakpoint I recommend you go for. In terms of FCR on Assassin, in the beta, we only managed to test 102 for Mind Blast. 174 will be reachable on the live version, so that will be interesting to see how it gets buffed from that. It could be that with this it would be actually even more powerful than Fists of Fire, but that is only up to speculation, so I don't want to talk about it too much. With that said, we covered all the changes. This is a bit of a longer video. Yesterday was a really long day of testing and finding out stuff. It was very interesting. I didn't go over the Blade Fury changes, as I said. During the time that I tested it, it was completely unreliable and bad. They made a lot of changes to it today, so I will go over it at some point, and hopefully we can find out how Blade Fury is right now. There were also changes to Death Sentry, but they weren't meaningful enough in my opinion. I don't really like how the skill operates in general in late game farming. I haven't seen any examples of it being good as well, so in my opinion the changes to it are not significant enough to warrant further testing. If somebody finds something, do correct me on that. So I'll admit that it could be that we're incorrect on that, but that is the results that I came to. And with that said, we have covered everything that we've done on the day 5 testing for the Assassin class. I hope everybody enjoyed this, and if you did, make sure to leave a like and subscribe for the channel, because it really does help it grow a lot. The growth has been insane recently, and I really hope I can keep up with all this content and keep it going for as long as everybody enjoys it, I guess. With that said, I hope I'll see you in the next video, on the next stream. Have a good whatever you're having. I'm gonna go eat something, and then we're gonna go into our day 6 of testing, which is gonna be for the Amazon class. And yeah, till the next time, bye.